If you really like this episode, please support our podcast by going to patreon.com/truecrimewives and get lots of great extras. On the Good Wives Guide to True Crime, we discuss crimes that some may find disturbing. Listener discretion is advised. Hey folks, it's time to grab your glass of wine because the Good Wives, Fancy, Colleen, and Christina, are about to serve up another true crime case. Guys, so thanks so much for tuning in tonight. This is our first radio show. So my name is Fancy Maselli, and I'm a producer and a writer and an actress, and I kind of fell into true crime. I've always been a fan, but I got involved in this crazy case, and it's right here in Springfield. It's the Gypsy Rose Blanchard case. And I got involved a couple years back working on a series for it. We ended up doing this podcast, and that's how I met these two lovely ladies, Colleen and Christina.
So my name's Colleen. McShane. I live in Wisconsin. So I started getting into true crime when I was much younger. But around Gypsy Rose Blanchard case, obviously Nicholas Godejohn is from my area, and so it really brought me to work with the team, and I've been here ever since, and I'm proud to be a member of our podcast and our team, and hoping you guys will continue tuning in to our radio show here.
Hi everybody, I'm Christina. I'm from Brooklyn, New York, and I've been into true crime since I was a child, and I met Fancy and Colleen because of the Gypsy Rose Blanchard case, which is out of Springfield, and it's basically led us here to this radio show and this case, and I'm excited to get into the case with you guys, and hopefully you'll continue to listen to us and tune into the cases that we have for you each week.
So each week we'll be talking a new case, some from Missouri, some not. And we hope that we can be enjoyable for you guys to listen and get some different perspectives and details. So tonight we are doing a Missouri case. It's kind of an old one. It's from June 7th of 1992, and we're talking about the Springfield 3. So the Springfield 3, I'm sure most of you are familiar with it if you are in the Missouri area. It was two young girls. They had just graduated the night before on June 6th. So basically just getting really excited and looking forward to their future. They ended up, going to a couple of different after parties and then ended up back at one of their houses. And so we're talking about Stacy McCall, who was 18, and Suzie Streeter, who's 19. And so they ended up back at Suzie's house, and then from there, her mother, Sherrill Levitt, who was 47, Stacy, and Suzie all disappeared.
And Suzie and Stacy were supposed to be going to a water park with her friend Janelle. They were going to meet up to go to Branson, but they decided not to make the drive, and they're supposed to stay the night at Janelle's house. But due to so many people that were staying, Stacy and Suzie decided it was too crowded and headed to Stacy's mom's house to sleep before heading out the next morning. And they supposedly left Janelle's house around 2 a.m. And the next day, nobody had heard from them, and so that people went to go investigate.
Yeah, I mean, this one is a crazy story. One of the things that I thought was so interesting about this case is there's almost no evidence. There's nothing to go on. There's no fingerprints. There's no blood. There's nothing. They just literally vanished. That's really hard. When that happens, it's very hard for police to solve anything. And there's a lot of different things that happen in this case that are rather strange that we're going to get into. But I mean, I followed this case. I had heard about it and I thought it was really strange. And over the years, I mean, it's been 27 years that this has been an open investigation. Like, it's just crazy.
I mean, it's eerie. When they showed up at the house to look for them, all 3 cars were right outside. When they got inside, all 3 purses were just lined up next to each other. It's just an eerie thing. Like, no trace of them, their belongings still there, and there's just never been a trace of them. It's just a very strange case, and there's not much to go on because of maybe I guess you would call them like unknowing mistakes that were made when people didn't realize what situation this was.
But it's all really odd. I mean, like, the whole situation with the crime scene is strange to me. And, they say that there was no signs of any struggle. There was, the door wasn't like, no doors were broken or, kicked in or anything like that. Nothing was out of place. That it's just very strange. And the thing that I think is odd about that is, like, it's 3 women. How do you get 3 women disappeared like nothing, with no struggle, no leaving any proof or evidence behind? Like, that's really hard to do.
Right, because it's 2 teenagers and one of their mothers.
Right.
So it's just unfortunate that the friend was also there, mm-hmm. and might have been taken really on accident. It was an opportunity to take another one. Mm-hmm. We don't really know, but definitely have some theories to go on.
Yeah, definitely. And like I said, it's very strange. So we're going to get into some of the basics of this story, some of the different crazy things that happened.
All cars were in the driveway, like Christina said, except for Susie's car was in the wrong place. And so it was parked differently. I don't have a diagram to show you, but it's not where it usually is parked.
I think it was said that normally she parked right, like, in the carport. And this time she didn't park in the carport. So I know there was question of when they arrived, was somebody already parked in the carport, and that's the reason she didn't park her car there. So that's a question that we have.
Right, because they said she was pretty adamant about always parking in the exact same spot. Some people even, like, referred to her as being OCD about it, but I don't think that that's criteria for constituting somebody as OCD. I mean, I park my car in the same spot every day too, but I'm nowhere near being OCD. But I guess the car was in the wrong spot, so that means maybe, like Christina said, there might have been somebody in the driveway already. And then you go on. I mean, the whole thing is there's just, like, so many strange happenings with this crime scene. Like this is stuff that you would never expect to happen in a crime scene. And it's kind of strange. And I have my own thoughts on some of these happenings. But the first one, is, okay, so Janelle was the house that the girls were supposed to stay at. But they ended up going home to Stacy's because there was just so many out-of-town guests because of the graduation. So they stayed there. And it does appear that the beds were slept in and things like that. So it does appear that they actually made it home. But then Janelle begins calling them, sometime in the early morning. And she's calling and calling and calling, and nobody's answering. So they decide they're going to go over there, her and her boyfriend, Mike. And this is about 8 a.m. to 9 a.m. Like, there's not a definite timeline on this because people, like, it's been 27 years and they didn't really know, and they didn't call anybody to report anything for hours and hours and hours. So they don't have an exact time frame, but the cars were all parked out front, and they go in the front door. And here's the first strange thing. So there was broken glass from the light globe on the porch, and Mike decides he's going to clean it up. Like, I don't know.
That was his first instinct, because he said that Janelle was barefoot and he didn't want her foot getting cut. And
right. Well, then somebody else said, though, that it wasn't that. It was that he knew that Sherrill wouldn't like glass all over her porch where anybody else could get hurt, so they cleaned it up.
And then he went in through the glass across the street in a dumpster?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, like, that's odd.
It's so weird when you don't even know yet what's going on while your friends
Oh.
aren't answering the phone, and you just decide, okay, I'm going to sweep up this glass. Nobody really needs it. I'm going to throw it in a dumpster.
Well, and see, here's the other thing. It's not clear. So Janelle and Mike went in the first time, and they looked around. They didn't see anybody, and supposedly they leave. But so we're not sure whether the glass was cleaned up on the first visit or the second visit, because Stacy's mom, she said that when she went over there later in the afternoon to check on them, because she hadn't heard from them either, that she saw the broken glass. So that just seems really odd. I don't know if the glass was cleaned up later, because when Stacy's mom goes over there, Mike and Janelle show up again, which I think is odd. Like, are they watching to see who's coming and going from the house? Do they live really close by? Like, I don't understand why they came and went twice. That's a weird situation. And I'm not saying that Janelle or Mike did anything, but I don't see any evidence that they were ever even questioned or anything, which that's questionable to me.
Right, they're the first people on this scene of a crime, and their first instinct was to clean up some evidence. But then that's not the only thing that happens.
Right.
Is that so many people come into this house.
Yeah. And like they all don't think that it's odd that the front door is just unlocked and they're just all parading through this house. Like, I've never heard of such a thing.
Well, no, that's what I was going to say. Like, when they arrive and they get there, and okay, I can even see someone saying, like, my grandma, she was a stickler for any type of dirt. She was known to, like, while you were eating, she would literally lift your plate up and clean the table under your plate while you're in the middle of a mouthful of food.
Wow.
So if I would have showed up at my grandma's house and there was glass outside of her door, I may have cleaned up that glass and got rid of it before I even ever rang the bell, because I would have been like, oh man, if she sees this, forget about it. So sure, I can excuse that. Mm-hmm. But now you find the front door is not locked. Right. And you don't see that as a red flag. You open the front door and you're like, hey, Suzie, Sherrill, is anybody here? And nobody's answering. To me, okay, no one's answering the phone. No one's got in touch with us. We haven't heard from them. They were supposed to contact us. We were supposed to meet up to go to this water park. Now we're at the house. There's glass shattered in front of the house that we just cleaned up. But on top of that, the front door is unlocked and no one's answering us. You know what? That would be the point where I took out my phone and called 911 and said, something is not right here, whatever the case is, and had police come at that point, because there's obviously something is wrong. Right. But instead, they just enter the home and look around, and they say there's no evidence of a struggle. They find the purses. And while they're there, something really interesting happens. And that's that the phone rings.
Oh, God, this is crazy.
So then the phone rings. Janelle answers it. So she's answering somebody else's house phone. And there's a male caller on the other end saying very lewd things. And she hangs up. Then another call supposedly comes in, and Mike, Janelle just decide to leave.
But, right, like, and that seems odd to me. Like, okay, so their purses are here, their clothes are here, they're not here, their cars are here, there's broken glass, and now some weirdo is calling their phone. Which, where are those phone calls coming from? I mean, I think they chalked up the phone calls to like a teen prank at first, but like, okay, I get it if you had just been in and you're like, oh, okay, their cars aren't here, and the door's unlocked, but I'm going to look around. Oh, their purses aren't here either. Okay, so they must have gone to breakfast, and then their phone rings, and okay, I'm going to answer it. If it's like my best friend, I might answer their house phone and be like, hey, Stacy's not here right now. Do you know where she is? Maybe like that. But I can't imagine, a lewd call has come in while I'm standing here in this house, and we're just going to leave. We're not going to do anything about it. This is all very strange. But, hey, I don't know. I'm just going
But what makes that even stranger is when that second call supposedly came in, from what I understand, they didn't answer the second one. They let it go to the answering machine. Mm-hmm. And it was the same type of lewd sexual content being said on the answering machine, and they deleted it before they left.
Well, I don't know if they deleted it or the mother or Stacy's mom deleted it. there's so many different like things that happen in this case that there's so many different versions of the stories.
Yeah.
It's a DA's nightmare.
Oh, absolutely, DA's nightmare. And then, like, I guess other family members come and go periodically throughout the day looking for them. And this is like the weird, okay, this to me is so bizarre. They do dishes. They wipe down the counters. Like, what in the hell is going on here? My friends are missing. Let me stop and do some dishes. Like, do you not realize that you might be at the point that
tampered of evidence?
At the point they've been missing this whole day, and obviously their cars are here, their purses are here, something doesn't feel right. I'm not wiping down evidence, possibly.
Right, like it's a very, nice gesture. Like but that would only be the case. Like I've house sat many times for a couple of weeks, and so. Even when I was at my best friends' houses, I would do it, like, because I would feel a little guilty for staying at their house for days and weeks on end. That I would do the dishes, I'd clean up the kitchen, I am OCD, so to me everything has to be organized and clean, and so I would do that for the houses I was house sitting at. I do it at my best friends' houses, even when I was a kid, it could be not this scenario. This isn't, I'm being a nice person for people who are coming home. You don't know where the hell the people are.
Right. Well, this reminds me of like the John Benet Ramsey case when they just had everybody, friends and family all came over and everybody was just all over the house. And then, oops, this is a crime scene. And you guys just trampled through everything.
Right. Well, like I was thinking, when I had my second daughter, she was in the hospital for 2 weeks. She had swallowed some amniotic fluid and they were worried that it was like pneumonia. And then she got jaundice while she was in there. So she was in there and I was going to the hospital every single day. And I didn't have a car at the time, so I was riding a bus to the hospital and home, and my best friend would come and meet me, and she would go with me every day. Well, the day that they said to me, well, we're going to go ahead and release her this afternoon, my best friend left, and she went home to my house, and she went in my home, and she cleaned up the whole house for me, making sure that everything was ready for baby, to come home. So I can see, like you're saying, Colleen, something like that, where you would be cleaning up for somebody, but not this. And this reminds me of, like, a very famous quote from one of my favorite movies of Midnight in the Garden of Good and Evil, where they're looking at the crime scene and the police officer's talking about it in the court. And he's like, the lawyer says, well, you guys didn't do a very good job of securing this crime scene. There was 1, 2, 3, 4, and a pussycat all running through this crime scene. And I've always thought that was such a funny thing, but the more and more I look into some of these cases in depth, I realize that this happens more often than not. Like, but this one was strange. I can't imagine my friends missing. Let me go ahead and just wash their dishes for them.
Well, and it gets even weirder if you'd be surprised. So we said all the purses are there, but all the purses are lined up together neatly at the top of the stairs. And the only clothes that Stacy had brought with her were all laid out, folded neatly with her shoes. Like kind of like an army style, like your clothes are on top of your shoes in a neat little pile.
Right, like she's getting ready, like that's what she's going to throw on in the morning over her swimsuit, and they're going to head to Branson to this water park, right? Like it was her shoes and her shorts, and then her bathing suit and her shirt was with her. But the purse is all lined up at the top of the stairs. Like that's weird. I don't know. I mean, I guess you could leave. I mean, I think I've done that before where I've left stuff when I know I'm going to leave the next morning for a trip. I've left it all like neatly packed in a specific area, but I don't know. At the top of the stairs just seems like an odd place for it.
Right, especially for Susie's mom. Like,
right?
Why is her purse up there? She like organized fashion.
Yeah. And it's odd because nothing appears to be missing from their purses. Like their IDs are there. There's a check for $900 in Sherrill's purse. So nothing's missing. In fact, Sherrill and Suzie are both heavy smokers, and their cigarettes are left there. And I know lots of people that are chain smokers like that. They don't go anywhere without cigarettes.
It's like a nightmare for them. That's their OCD moment. They would rather have those cigarettes than their driver's license.
Absolutely. Right.
And so both of them are left behind. But a check for $900 is in Cheryl's purse as well.
Right. Like, if it was a robbery, then that would have been gone, I'm sure, you know.
But no struggle.
No struggle. The beds appear to have been slept in. So there's like one that was Cheryl's bed. She appeared to have slept in her bed. And then there was another guest bedroom that it appeared that the girls slept in a bed together, which, you know, that's normal for teenage girls to do. And then there's another thing, like, so super strange, is there happens to be, you know, they get all these tips. They set up a tip line eventually. And there's one tip that comes in, is a waitress at a local diner that they frequented. And she basically says she recalls seeing all three women the night of the disappearance between the hours of 1 a.m. and 3 a.m. And she says that the three women came in and had breakfast, and she remembers that Suzie was really drunk, and she said that that Sherrill was having a terrible time trying to get her to go with her in the car because Suzie was so drunk, which, you know, okay, yeah, they'd been out partying. Maybe they came home and mom was like, oh my goodness, you guys smell of, you know, whatever. Let's go grab some breakfast before we lay down, you know, and tell me about your night. But no one else corroborates this. They asked other people that said they were in the diner that night. Nobody else remembers seeing them except for this one waitress.
So now around 7:30 p.m., Stacy's mom, Janice, decides to call the police, and they agree to take a missing persons report. They ask her to come by the next morning and ask if she can bring Stacy's dental records. That would be helpful.
Like, what the hell is that?
Yeah.
Right.
Have you ever heard of that?
Right, why is she, I just want to get some dental records. Like, that reminds me of, like, the whole 9 yards movie.
Like, you don't do that until you're trying to identify a body, right? Like, that's if the body is badly burned and we can't identify it and there's no fingerprints. We're going to need to do this through dental records. Like, that's when you're asking for dental records, not, well, okay, she's missing. We don't know anything about it. Could you stop by the dentist office and grab some dental records?
As I said, it's like the whole 9 yards. Matthew Perry.
Yes.
Where he's like, I need these people's dental records so I can, like, fix their mouth to look like your mouth.
Right.
Like, does anybody know a dentist?
Yeah, I don't know. Oh my gosh, I don't know. It's so strange. Like, that's one of the weirdest things. And I know that the police, you know, they don't take missing person cases super seriously when they first happen, which I think that really needs to change. Like, all these years, you know, and we're still on this, well, let's wait 48 hours to see if these people return. You know what? A lot of times nobody returns. Like, and I think, you know, if you're not doing something within the first 48 hours, you're lessening how effective you're going to be in finding these people.
Right. That's why there's the show 48 Hours. People recognize. And that's why I think it's, as it gets, you know, more current, that more states and more legislation is coming out wherein people are looking into missing persons cases sooner than the 48 hours. I think it's very dependent on the local police department.
Circumstances. But this one seems like this would have been taught, you know, this definitely for me, this would have been a absolute no-brainer. Like, okay, they're not here. If it had just been like the two girls were missing, okay, maybe they took off to Branson and didn't tell mom and they just took off for the day and their purses were gone and stuff. All right, maybe, you know, but we've got the cars, their purses are here. There's no sign of them. It's 7:30 at night now. They were supposed to be somewhere at 8 a.m. Like, literally, I would really say, okay, this is time. We need to, you know, section off this house. We need to put the crime scene tape up. We need to take this seriously at this point. Not, hey, stop by in the morning with some dental records and we'll see what we can do.
Well, I always have to think about the Amber Alert system because I'm always like, why isn't there an Amber Alert out for this child? They're missing. Mm-hmm. And then there's all these like rules about it. And I'm like, well, why is one child put out on the Amber Alert and why are these 10 other kids not?
Well, and you got to remember, though, this is 1992. So,
yeah.
I mean, I actually, the funny thing about this case is I actually graduated the same day. So so this is like, I remember this happening because of that, because I remember my mom telling me about girls that had gone missing because I wanted to go on a trip, and my mom was like, well, I don't know. I mean, these girls are just going missing all the time. And she told me about this case. I remember her talking to me about this specific case, and I was like, yeah, but Mom. She's like, no. So, but I mean, yeah, so it's 92. So, I mean, I don't even remember, when did Amber Alert get started? I don't think it was really that early, was it?
It has to be more, I think, later 90s, early 2000s.
Yeah, that's what I think. I think that's when it happened. Because I remember we had like Code Blue, which was in place from Adam Walsh when he went from like a local grocery store or whatever. And so they started doing those where it was like Code Blue if they went missing from inside of a mall or a store or whatever, and they would like shut down whatever it was, So I do remember some of those, but I don't remember.
It was started in 96.
96. Okay, so.
But
I don't think it became big until.
No, not later. But I had to look because we mentioned the case already. John A. Ramsey, that was also in 1996. Mm-hmm. So 90 is not a great period of time.
Oh, no. Well, have you seen the show that's called like the 90s, the deadliest decade? All right, guys. Well, we're going to go ahead and break here for a minute for one of our sponsors. So don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. And when we get back, we're going to be talking about the suspects.
What if you could be a true crime detective right from the comfort of your own home? Dispatch is an interactive serial mystery that unfolds over several months. Imagine the experience of an escape room in your own home, a new kind of escape called Dispatch. It's a subscription box that's a step apart from everyday entertainment. Better than a book, more engaging than television, think of it as an immersive mystery where you wear the detective hat. The story begins with your first delivery, or dispatch, if you will. In it, you'll find physical clues that lead you to the web and back to the real world to unravel a mysterious crime. Grab a friend, the whole family, and your thinking cap, and get ready to put your heads together for one mind-bending ride, as additional details are revealed with every package. Head over to our Instagram at www.instagram.com/truecrimewives and click on the link in our bio, then choose the dispatch button to start your own true crime adventure today.
Okay, guys, so here we are. We're going to talk about some suspects now. And first one we're going to talk about is Bart Streeter. And Bart was Susie's older brother. He was 9 years older than her. And for a decade, he had been estranged from his family. So he had gotten heavy into drugs and he was running with a bad crowd. So his mom kicks him out. And about 10 years later, he goes through a pretty bad breakup and he returns home and he claims he's on a good path. So Sherrill's not so convinced, but Suzie, being the sweet younger sister and everything, she, is anxious to get to know her brother more. And so she actually ends up in her senior year, she moves out of her mom's house for a while and into this apartment that was a few miles away with the brother. And things go good for a while. He seems to be doing well. He gets a job. Things are great. And then eventually he begins drinking heavily again. And there is a physical altercation between Suzie and Bart. And then Suzie ends up moving back home to live with her mom. And the relationship becomes strained between the ladies and Bart again. So he was seen drinking and was said to be very slashed on the night of the disappearance. They do a polygraph test. He does pass it. But one of the things that was in one of the documentaries I watched was that if he was blackout drunk, as many say he seemed to be that night, he might not remember the events of the night, and that would create false results on the polygraph. He has been in a couple of documentaries. He has talked about how he feels that the police focused in on their family, because one of the things the police said was that they couldn't really, since they had nothing to go from with evidence or anything, they really had to dive into the background of these women, and that was where they tried to build the case from. So he was looked at, and his family, because they had been in trouble in some times, and the mom had done some things and everything, he felt like that's why they didn't take this case seriously. Then he was arrested last year, actually, in the state of Tennessee. And he was arrested for public intoxication, disorderly conduct, and attempted false imprisonment. But I've since looked into that more, and that's like almost bogus. Like basically, he went into this nail shop and he was talking to somebody, and then he left, and they charged him with these things. So it's kind of a sordid story there. I mean, there's still some details that are coming out on that, but it does not appear that he.
I think Christina has those details.
Oh, okay, Christina. Yeah,
that's what I found when I looked up updates. So I didn't get to look much further into it to see that it might have been a bogus. But I saw that he was arrested for it.
Because I think it was that there was like a 16-year-old girl in there, or 15-year-old girl, and he tried to get her to leave with him, and she's like, I don't even know you. And
he supposedly claimed to be her grandfather.
Yeah, I've heard a lot of different things, but I don't think he's the suspect. Like, yes, there's some bad blood there. Yes, there was some differences of opinions, but from everything I've seen, he is very upset. I have gone on to the Streeter family blog, and he has made a lot of posts on there and talked about things and how much he misses his sister and he loved them and how sad it is and how much he wants them to, be found. So
yeah,
I don't think that he is the suspect, or the person who did this. He obviously was a suspect, but I don't think that he is the perpetrator.
I think he's just
looked at because he was a, kind of a shady little guy that had an altercation with his mom and his sister, and that was it. But I just don't see him. I think if there had been some sort of thing with him, there would have been evidence. Like it would have been a struggle. There would have been something that happened in the house. I don't think it would have just been poof, they're gone.
Right. I think he is a shady dude. I think that he definitely not, perfect, but I agree. I don't think he's the one who took or / murdered the 3 girls.
No.
Well, earlier, Fancy, you said that being that there was so little for law enforcement to go off of, they had to pretty much dig into the 3 missing persons past and see if there was anything that would lead them anywhere. And what they were able to find out at the time was that Suzie had an ex-boyfriend that was kind of a bad boy, and they had broken up because he used her car he was doing grave robberies. And they robbed him and a friend of his name is Dustin Reckler, and his friend Michael Clay. They were both charged in the grave robberies, but from what I understand, they robbed the gold teeth off of a skull. And Suzie was disgusted by what they did, so she suspected of turning them in, and she was going to testify at the hearing that was coming up in a couple of months. So his friend Michael was heard saying that he wished all 3 women, Suzie, Stacy, and Sherrill, were dead. They had no real alibis for the night of disappearance. They both did pass polygraph exams, and they were cleared by the police chief, but many members of law enforcement do not agree that they should have been cleared.
Yeah, but okay, I understand that, but seriously, like how much could they possibly have been getting for gold frickin' teeth? Like, are they going to do 6 months to a year, maybe 18 months? I don't see them doing life in prison. So really they're going to take 3 women's lives for that? That seems so far.
Well, and it could have been community service.
Yeah.
It depends on what their history with law enforcement is and how responsible their parents are. If you release the kid to the parents' custody.
Right. And if they are over, I don't know if they were over 18 at the time or not, so.
And Dustin Recklow was Suzie's ex-boyfriend.
Right.
And Michael Clay was the friend.
Was the friend.
So you guys know.
Yeah. Yeah. And things have happened like that. I mean, obviously boyfriends kill girlfriends all the time, but I don't know. Again, this seems so far-fetched. And again, it seems like there would have been, if I really feel like this had to be a lot more organized than some sort of crime of anger or passion. Because of how little there was. And yeah, okay, so people came in and wiped down fingerprints, but or wipe down counters, which could have got rid of fingerprints on those counters, but really everything would have, there's nothing. I don't believe that. I really feel there would have been more evidence.
Right. I think that it's usually somebody who's done it before, and they get better and better and better at it.
Sure.
And so that's why the next person I'm going to talk about was Robert Craig Cox. And he is a convicted serial kidnapper and robber. He was originally convicted of murder in Florida and then sentenced to death row, but the Supreme Court overturned the decision, stating that there was not enough evidence to convict him. And then he took up a residence in Springfield in 1992, the same year these girls went missing. Mm-hmm. Eventually, he was convicted first in California on kidnapping charges, and then in Texas, where he is serving a life sentence now. And Cox has claimed that he knows that the Springfield women are dead, and he knows where their bodies are, but he won't give any more information than that.
Yeah, I mean, he was looked at early on as a suspect. They released him. They couldn't find anything. He was kind of creepy and weird. And I know that there was certain searches done and stuff, and they just couldn't find anything to connect them. And then I guess when he got charged, he began saying things. And so a reporter got a story from him, and then so the police went down there and talked to him, and he gave them that shady, cryptid. Yeah, I know they're dead, and I know where they are. They're buried somewhere just outside of Springfield, but I'm not telling you. And the reason that he gives that he's not telling is that his mom, he won't say anything until his mom is dead, and she's like in her 80s or 90s now, and she still hasn't died, so he still has not given any more information than that.
Did they find that he worked at a car dealership with Stacy's dad?
Yes.
Was that him?
Yes. Mm-hmm. He did.
So he did have a connection to them.
Mm-hmm.
But it's so weird because he says, I know they're dead. Yep. But he doesn't say that to the police. He says it to a TV reporter.
Right.
Right. This dude is messed up.
He is. Well, I mean, we're talking about a serial killer here. Yeah. Serial rapist, serial killer. I mean, so, and they said that the family of the young girl that he supposedly killed in Florida, they have been following him, because they believed when he left and got the conviction overturned, they believed that he would do it again. And he was a young guy when this first murder happened. He was on a trip with his parents to Florida. He was out one night. He came back to the hotel. He was bloody and something had happened. And then they connected this girl to him and tried and convicted him. And then he took it through the appeals process, and they overturned the conviction. So I really think that he probably is our best bet for a suspect that actually did this.
I think so too, because I think the boyfriend, as much as there might be a little bit of a motive, I don't think it's big enough motive, and I don't think that they would have went willingly with her ex-boyfriend knowing who he is.
No. The only other thing, though, that I can say, there are a couple other suspects that we didn't cover, and you can find that information on the case at the Streeter Family blog with 2gs.blogspot.com. There's a lot more suspects on there. However, everybody really does think that this guy Cox is the one who did it. The only thing I have a problem with that, and I'll talk about it here in a minute, but the biggest thing I have a problem with is to overpower 3 women like that. I just feel like there had to be another person, which is maybe why Cox is so cryptic about it. Like, he knows what happened, but maybe he didn't necessarily do exactly what happened, and maybe he ran with some people that did. But I just feel like there had to be more than one person to really contain those 3 women so well that there's no evidence.
Yeah, I agree with you. When you think about, my first thought was, okay, maybe he got them while they were sleeping one at a time, but there's no blood evidence. There's nothing in the bed. So what did he do? Carry them out of the house? It doesn't make any sense for one person to be able to get all 3 women out of the house with no signs of a struggle, no blood, nothing that shows that there was anything that went wrong other than their belongings being left there and broken glass outside.
Right.
But there's also this third twist to the suspects, I think, have a theory, just a theory, that they were probably sex trafficked.
Yeah, I think that that's a really interesting theory. Because that's okay. So sex trafficking, like, it's been going on for decades, and those people they work in teams. They are extremely, extremely methodical. It is like a hitman comes in and does this, and those women just disappear, like poof, in the night, and I think with the situation of it being graduation time, and they knew that the kids, like, I feel like these people were being watched. I think that's why the phone calls happened. Like, I think they were trying to see who was in the house, who was investigating, who was looking, after that. So I do feel like there is a cause for that sex trafficking idea, because I think, and I do think that Stacy was not the target. I think that it was Suzie and Sherrill, and Stacy just happened to be in the wrong place at the wrong time. I don't know. What else do you guys think? Because it's such a strange case. Like, it's so hard to even come up with something, because there's really not a whole lot to go on. Like, it's so odd.
It is really odd.
I'm hoping that before Cox dies at some point, which he's, I think, only 60, so he's probably got a long life to go.
Mm-hmm.
I'm hoping that he will pull Ted Bundy and, like, confess, like, the morning of.
Yeah. I mean,
like, even though Ted Bundy didn't admit everything, he at least admitted a lot.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
if he could just say, like, they're buried, like, right off of Country Road scene.
Well, I would only take it at his word, though, if they found the bodies, because, I mean, I feel like he could honestly be one of those situations. Like, I don't know if you guys have seen it. I think it's on Netflix. It's called The Confession Killer.
Oh, yeah.
Documentary where the guy, like, confessed to, like, hundreds and hundreds of murders that he didn't do. Like,
yeah.
So I would be concerned that maybe it's that kind of situation. Like, Cox is just like, well, I'm in here, I might as well say some shit, to get everybody's goad. Like, because I think a lot of them like to do stuff like that. They want attention. That's, so I don't know. We're going to be discussing this case in greater detail on our podcast. So if you want to go to any of your favorite podcast platforms, you can search The Good Wives Guide to True Crime, and give us a listen. Our first season was an in-depth look on another famous Springfield case of the Gypsy Rose Blanchard case. We did about 13 episodes on that. We worked on that case for over 3 years. So this season, though, we will be covering a wide variety of cases, including this one. We'll probably do some more on it as we investigate some more. And if you listen on Apple Podcasts, leave us a 5-star review and you can be entered to win free coffee on us. The Good Wives always like to enjoy a good glass of wine while we dish true crime. One of our favorite wine clubs is California Wine Club. Each month, they feature a different winery and hand select 2 of their best wines for the club members. With 5 different club options, we are sure one will fit your taste, whether you are a longtime wine connoisseur or a wine newbie. And right now, through March 31st, get 50% off your first purchase of a club membership. To get the savings link, go find us on Facebook at www.facebook.com/truecrimewives. Click on our special California Wine Club link, and you can enjoy a glass of wine with your crime, just like the Good Wives.
And then if you have any information, there is a $42,000 reward for information that leads to solving this case. And you can contact the Springfield Police Department at 417-869-TIPS, which is 417-869-8477. We absolutely love hearing from our listeners, and we'd like to invite you to send us a question for us to answer on a case that you'd like us to cover. You can do this in 2 ways. You can send us a voice message at anchor.fm/truecrimewives, or you can drop us an email at goodwivesdish@gmail.com. We may give you a shout out live on our future episode.
Thanks so much for tuning in and dishing true crime with the Good Wives.
Don't forget to join our Patreon member club. Inside documents and pictures will be shared there from every case, bonus mini podcast episodes, live YouTube discussions, our exclusive discussion group on Facebook, and get some amazing Good Wives merch.
Follow us on Twitter and Instagram at True Crime Wives. And for more inside information, check us out on YouTube at Murder by Design, where we're currently hosting our series on Moms Who Kill.
Have a good one from the Good Wives, serving up true crime one dish at a time. Found on incompetech.filmmusic.io. And the creator is Kevin MacLeod.